My guest this morning are two faces that a lot of people at Peninsula Bible Fellowship are going to know, and that's because they are really the founding pastors of Peninsula Bible Fellowship, Bill Robinson and Joe Schneider, who really served in pastoral leadership from the beginning of the church in 1976 until 2011 in sort of two different terms of leadership. So if you're angry about anything at Peninsula Bible Fellowship, you have one of the three of us to blame for it. But it's great to have you guys with us this morning. And I would just want to talk about, I think we were all a little bit shocked when the news came out last Friday that the kingdom of God really on earth, if there's anything like a statesman for Jesus's kingdom, I would say that J.I. Packer was a statesman for the kingdom of God. Christianity Today said that he was one of the most famous and influential evangelical leaders of our time. He's a unique person, I think, in the history of American Christianity, global Christianity. Why do you think he was so influential?
I think, Brent, he was, there's a unique identification between Dr. Packer and Peninsula Bible Fellowship, because we've said in the past we wanted to be a church of grace and truth. And John says that when God became flesh, that he was identical to his Father, and he was seen to be full of grace and truth. Those were two aspects of his glory that were seen. And I think, like Jesus, Dr. Packer was full of grace and truth. He didn't badmouth people. He was constantly gracious, even with those that he disagreed with. And when he took doctrines and teachings and theology, because he was a theologian, that he disagreed with, he always represented them fairly. I remember going to a conference where he spoke about charismatic movement, and a couple of charismatic friends said, that's the best description, the most generous explanation of charismatic movement and beliefs by a non-charismatic I've ever heard. So he uniquely captured, among other things, grace and truth. And I think that's one of the reasons we were drawn to him so much, and that the world loved him.
It was amazing to be around him and to see how he thought. He reminded me of C.S. Lewis, where I would read C.S. Lewis and just put the book down and go, God, I don't know how a human being can have these kind of thoughts. Excuse me. But just to be with him and see not only how brilliant he was, but how humble he was. Totally unimpressed with himself, but so impressed with God. And you would walk away from the time not thinking about Packer. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Yeah.
But thinking, what an amazing God we have. And, I didn't walk away thinking I'd like to be like Packer. I would walk away thinking, man, I want to be like the God he knows.
Yeah.
He truly wrote the right book when he wrote Knowing God.
So it's really, Knowing God was exploding. It was one of the biggest books of all time. And so he was taking time out to mentor some church planters here in Bremerton. It strikes me that every time we read the Bible at PBF, we're reading a translation that he was the general editor of, and as you read about him, he really felt like the ESV, English Standard Version, translation of the Bible was his greatest gift to
Right.
the church. He was a diligent servant of the kingdom all the way until he really took his last breath, wasn't he?
Yeah, and one picture he had of a theologian's job was, I thought this was kind of cute, neat, was to keep the streams clear, to keep the garbage and the rubbish out of the water so that it was drinkable. So he was go ahead.
Yeah, he saw himself as both the water engineer and the sewage plant manager.
Well, he played a pretty pivotal role in the opening day of the worshiping building 9590 Radcliffe. Tell me a little bit about that.
We were nothing. We were just a fledgling church and a couple pastors who didn't know what they were doing, wanting to have an impact on our community and world. And he talked to God and sent him. And it was an incredible blessing, but it really he marked us, but he marked the church.
It wasn't a short sermon, but it was welcome. And we released a lot of balloons. But again, to travel down from Vancouver to Bremerton, little out of the way Bremerton, for a world-class figure in his day, and even when the church was dedicated, spoke again of his humility and his love for people and his love for the church.
Remarkably enough, we have some video from that service, that first service that was ever held here at Peninsula Bible Fellowship in this building. And as we play out, let's listen to J.I.'s words to us as a congregation. I think they're as valid and meaningful today as they were so many years ago. So Bill and Joe, thank you so much for joining me. Bill, thank you for interrupting your vacation to remember this sort of giant among Christian leaders.
Naturally, they'll watch you with interest to see what sort of an advertisement you are for the gospel you preach. And just as a bald man would not be sent out to sell heresy or so a life that hasn't been changed into a pattern of humility and Christ-like love, isn't much of an advertisement for the gospel of Christ the life-changing. Let your good works back up your good words. That's what Jesus is saying. Bear witness with your lips and confirm that witness with your life. That's what I did. That's what you must do. As the Father said to me, so I say to you. That's your mission. That's your trust. In the joy of my peace, in the power of the new life of hope I brought you, go and tell. Go and share. And show how I've changed you by the peace and the love that you bring into the lives of others. So we learned some definitions this morning. A definition of grace, Christ coming. The definition of the church, Christ in the midst. The definition of the Bible, the voice of Christ, you and me. The definition of the gospel, Jesus bringing peace. Say those definitions, brothers and sisters. Take them into your hearts. Live with them. Live by them. Guide your church life by them. Never let them out of your minds and out of your hearts. And you will know God's blessing here continually. And this church, this Peninsula Bible Fellowship, will be what the church is supposed to be. Light of the world, salt in society, transforming fellowship. So, God bless you all.